Alright, so let's continue with part 3 of my ranking the Sinister 6 movies, which, again, I'm going to say this on each part. This is a ranking of 50 movies, 6 franchises: Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Scream, and Chucky. And with this ranking, this, again, it's more entertainment value than, like, say it's a good movie in like an opinion based thing. This is just like, I like this one more because this one's more fun, for the most part, for horror, because horror is not always considered, or for the most part considered, movies that are always great. So let's get on with my ranking number 30 through 21, and my number 30 would be Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning. And this is one that I actually liked a lot on rewatch, and one of the other people doing this, one of my friends, Derek from Derek's Horror Corner, really loves this movie. I could see why. I think this is actually really well done for a Texas Chainsaw movie. But I could also see why people think it's just okay or not that great, because I do enjoy these characters. I do enjoy the brutality of it. I really like Arlie Ermey in it. I think he's great. So I think that this is a really good one, but it's just not one that I typically want to rewatch. It's lower because I felt like there's a lot more that I really do genuinely love or enjoy more, even though this one is still a solid Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. So that's why it is my number 30. And then my number 29 would be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake from 2003. This one, to me, choosing between these two, this one I put over it because I think that it's just a more quote-unquote well-made movie than, like, The Beginning, which is fine. It's a fine movie, The Beginning. But this one, I love the fact that this is a remake that almost doesn't do the same thing as the original, where all the other remakes, Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street, are basically the same movie again. And this one is, yeah, you can argue it's the same movie again, but this one I felt like they did enough different to where it didn't feel like it was the exact same thing. They didn't stay in the same locations in the other movie. They did a lot more with it. It's an ambitious remake, and I really like all the performances. Jessica Biel I like a lot. The gore is good, like in The Beginning was good as well. That's why I bunched these two together, because they're both really similar, but this one I'd put a tad bit over The Beginning, but that doesn't mean that this is way better. It's just I like these both pretty equally. Like, this is a really good remake, so that's why it is my number 29. And then my number 28, don't kill me, Derek, is Scream 4. Now, this one, I swear to God, the rankings, this is just how it went. I didn't do this just to annoy him, but, like, he doesn't like this movie, but he loves the Texas Chainsaw remakes. And I just thought it was funny coincidence that I was like, oh shit, I just did that on accident, and I really didn't legitimately realize that until I started ranking, like, doing this video. So, Scream 4. Way better than Scream 3 in my opinion. I really do enjoy Scream 4. I enjoy Sydney a lot. I enjoy all these new characters. Kirby is one of the coolest, like, characters in a horror movie, honestly. I think she is a badass. Hayden Panettiere is amazing and beautiful, and she's just she's got such a great performance in this movie. I really love her as Kirby. And if we got a sequel ever, I feel like she would be alive in the next one, because they didn't show her completely die. So, I really love that. I love the gore. I think the gore's pretty good. I think that these characters are good, even though they're basically the same as the first movie, despite the killer reveal, which, spoiler for Scream 4, the killer reveal with Jill, her cousin, Sydney's cousin. Honestly, I really love this villain, and I thought that this villain's, like, the reason why this villain is what she is really interesting and fascinating, because her explanation for killing these people is like, I grew up my whole life listening to how great Sydney was, how great Sydney is, and all Jill wants is just to be famous like Sydney. She's just this bratty kid, and I love the fact that the villain is just this piece of shit, like, teenager that wants to become famous and, like, not work for anything. I love that. I love how horrible this villain is. I think she's great. And the other killer is fine, but he's just kind of there to die. Like, he doesn't have much to him. He's the Randy equivalent, and I'm blanking on his name because I haven't seen Scream 4 in a little bit, but he just was the, like, most of these characters are basically the characters from the first movie again, which is fine. It totally is. And I wouldn't say, like, I already ranked Scream 3 in this ranking, and this is second worst in my opinion, but I think all four of these movies are good. Like, the third one, even though I have a lot of issues with it, I don't think it's terrible. I just think that it's way lower. And this one falls in that middle category of, like, it's good, but it's not great, like Scream 2 and, well, 1 and 2. Because it does do a lot of, oh, we're doing the same movie as the first one again. So that's why it's way lower. Even though I do like the performances, I do like the gore, I do like the characters, I do like how Sydney is going through even more shit, like just dealing with this time another family member, a family member that she's known for her whole life, as opposed to the one in Scream 3. This is just a really well done remake, I guess. It's like a remake, but it's not. It's a sequel, but it's not. It's like they do the self-aware meta thing of, like, oh, it's a remake, but it's not. Which I think, yeah, the characters are better in the first movie, but these characters are still fine and serviceable. And Kirby is badass. She's great. Jill's good. I like her. The other characters are good, but they're a little forgettable because they're not the first movie characters again. But Scream 4 I actually enjoy a lot. That's why it's my number 28. And then my number 27 would be Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. Now, this one, spoilers, I guess, kind of, for like my rankings farther along the line, but I love the first 6 movies. I love the first 6 Friday movies. I think they're all incredible. They're all incredibly rewatchable, all fun. I can't really choose between all of them, and it was so hard to choose between the first 6 Friday movies in terms of ranking them. And this one is the one where it's not bad like Part 8, but it has some bad moments in it. It's not as good as 1 through 6, in my opinion. This one, I do like Tina a lot. Tina is a very good, sympathetic character that you really care for and root for. And the gore is basically non-existent in this movie. But my positives would be Tina really is mostly just Tina and Jason, as like how he looks. Like, Jason looks great in this movie, but there's not much else I can give this one. Like, the gore is non-existent because John Carbuckler, who directed this, like, the MPAA just literally just took out all the gore. So it's really bad that they took it out of a slasher. Like, seriously, it's so apparent how bad that is that it's just gone from this movie, and we never can find. People can't actually find the files for the kills because Paramount just kind of threw them away, like, at a whim. So, like, we're never gonna see that footage, like, in HD. So it's unfortunate that we don't get to see the footage of Friday 7, which isn't, again, unfortunate. But overall, this one not as good as the first 6. Tina is a great final girl. Love Tina. Everybody else is completely and utterly forgettable. Jason is a good Jason in this movie. He's really awesome. Kane Hodder's first appearance. He looks great. He looks intimidating. He's very bulky, very intimidating as a character, or as a villain. Everything else is forgettable. So that's why it's lower. Even though I do love Tina and I love Jason in this movie, everything else is just bare bones slasher. And where the other Friday the 13th movies felt like they were more than that, in my opinion, these characters were all likable and entertaining in the first 6. This is where it just falls apart. But it's not as bad as Part 8. It's in between the first 6 and Part 8. It's not as bad as Part 8, but it's not as good as the first 6. So that's why it is my number 27. And then my number 26. This was hard to choose because I really do love this movie and I feel like it should be higher, but there are so many more movies I love and I rewatch more than this. But my number 26 would be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. Love Stretch, love Caroline Williams, just great final girl. The gore's really good. Love the humor in this movie. This movie has great, really hilarious humor. Like, they really did a great job of making this a black comedy, which Tobe Hooper like Toby Hooper in his mind says that the original is like that, but people don't understand or don't notice it because there's so many brutal things going on. I never thought that it was a black comedy in the original. I think it's one of the scariest movies ever made, the original movie. And this one, he went full out black comedy. And this one is hilarious. These characters are great. They're likable. The gore is really good. So that's why, but basically all I can say, that's why it's my number 26. Just a really, really great Texas Chainsaw movie. And then my number 25, I guess controversial opinion would be Freddy versus Jason. Now, this one I could see every reason why people don't like this movie. I see completely why people hate this movie. I grew up with this movie. I thought that this movie just, as a kid, I really, really enjoyed this movie, and I still do. I actually like the characters a lot. I like Monica Keena's character a lot. Laurie, I think that she's great. I think that Freddy and Jason... Freddy is great. Robert Englund does a great job. Jason is fine. He's the least Jason out of all of the movies, where like he's not the worst. Like I mean he is the worst Jason, if that makes sense. He's the worst Jason, but he's not the worst part of the movie. I think that Jason in Freddy vs. Jason is just this kind of hulking dumb character because Freddy kind of has a hold of him. So people just are really annoyed that like he doesn't do much, and I understand that. I mean, he does do a lot. He does kill like everybody in the movie besides one kill from Freddy. So it's like this movie has a lot of positives and negatives. Like Freddy kills one person, Jason kills everybody else, and Jason is the worst Jason, but Freddy is really great. I really think Robert Englund is great as Freddy in this movie. But also it has the downside of the guy who directed this had literally knew nothing about the movies, either one of the franchises, Ronnie Yu. But visually, in terms of visual flair, in terms of dumb blockbuster, this one is really incredibly rewatchable. I really like how fun this is. I think the gore is fun, even though some of it's CG. I think that it's such a fun splatter, like silly blockbuster movie that I don't care if people don't like it. I understand why. I'm not defending it in that way. But I think this is a really fun time. I really enjoy Freddy vs. Jason. And then my number 24 would be Cult of Chucky. And again, controversial opinions all around. This one, I think, honestly, I love this one. I love the fact that this does do a fine line between the serious Chucky and then the comedic Chucky, where like they all exist in the same universe. It's not like Don Mancini wrote out any of them. Even the one that people hate, Seed of Chucky, like they all exist in this universe. They're not, none of them are retconned or written out. So this movie does a good job, in my opinion, of doing the horror and the comedy and mixing them both together. And they do it actually in a really good way. I really do like these characters. I really do like the gore. The gore is really great, even though some of it's CG. But still, I think that it is great gore. I think that Nika is a great final girl. Again, a great character. I think Chucky has some great one-liners. Like, he is so funny in this movie as well. Like, not all of his jokes land, but I don't think that in any Chucky movie all of his jokes land for the most part. Besides Bride of Chucky, which I think is truly one of the best horror comedies, in my opinion. And I love the fact that Don Mancini, whether you love or hate any of the movies he's directed, he always tries to do something different. Look at Bride of Chucky, which is a horror comedy, and then you go to Seed of Chucky, which is a full-on comedy. Then you go to Curse of Chucky, which is a callback to the first couple movies, but is more giallo-like, and it's just a one woman in danger in a house in the middle of nowhere in The Curse of Chucky. And then in Cult of Chucky, it is going into a mental institution, kind of like Chucky meets Cuckoo's Nest. And there's even a joke about Cuckoo's Nest in the movie, because Brad Dourif played Billy Bibbins in Cuckoo's Nest. But I think that this is just one that I really enjoy. I really enjoy all these characters. I thought they were all fun, even the characters that just get killed off easily. I thought the twist was great, where Chucky actually finally, after 7 movies, takes over somebody's body. Like, it took that long. And I like that it's just gonna be this multiple Chucky thing, and we're gonna get more sequels apparently, and the TV show still, even though the rights don't make any sense to me. I don't know how the rights work, because of course MGM is making their live action movie that comes out in the summer. But they're still apparently making a TV show and more movies based on the original Chucky, which I hope for because I love almost all the Chucky movies, even the one that's everybody's least favorite. I like See Chucky. So Cult, I just really liked all these characters. I liked the gore. I liked the kills. I liked Chucky. I thought he was great. I thought all the twists were unique in this franchise. I really like these characters a lot. And just everything about it. I thought this was a really fun, entertaining movie. So that's why it's my number 24. And then my number 23 would be Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. And this one is pretty low, but I do love this movie. I do love these characters. I do love the fact that Freddy, like, they fight back against Freddy. That Nancy comes back. And Kristen, who Patricia Arquette's first film role, did a great job in this movie. She's really good. Kristen and Nancy and everybody in the mental institution. Again, another mental institution movie like Cult of Chucky, but they all pit against Freddy and fight against him and become Dream Warriors. And it's just a fun, entertaining time because these characters are all likable and entertaining. They all are very fun, and you actually feel bad when a lot of them die. Like, you actually care enough. That's what I think is great. So I really do like Nightmare 3. I think Nightmare 3 is a great sequel, but it's not my favorite, even though a lot of people it's their favorite, which is, I completely and totally understand, but this is my fourth favorite, like ranking the Nightmare films. So that's my number 23. And then my number 22 would be the original Nightmare on Elm Street, which is still one of the creepiest, like, and coolest and unique, like, creations ever, like, made for film, like for a horror movie. Wes Craven got the idea of, like, hearing about these kids somewhere in the world where, like, they literally died in their sleep, and, like, they tried to stay awake until they fell asleep and just died in their sleep in real life. And that is scary and disturbing. And I love the fact that this one and the second one are the only ones where Freddy is truly, like, dark and truly a dark and scary character that's in the shadows, and you never really fully see in the first one. You never really fully see him. It's always to where you don't see him in full. Robert Englund is really scary in the first movie. He's really effective. Nancy is a good final girl. I like her a lot. I like how she does a pre-Home Alone thing where, like, she sets booby traps to kill Freddy. I like the fact that Nancy and her parents have a past that they are keeping secret, and when Nancy figures it out, that, like, they burned and killed Fred Krueger, his name in this movie, not Freddy, Fred Krueger. They kill him before, like, whenever they were kids, and now he's out for revenge against all the kids. So that just is a really cool and interesting story, and this is one of the most unique horror movies ever. I know people take it for granted now, but this is just an incredible movie. And it's very, very great. Like, my number 21 is one that I think is better, I guess. I don't know about better, because people will be like, oh, you don't like all these things that you could point out. But Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, is more rewatchable to me than 1 and 3, even though I do love 1 and 3. I love this one a lot too. I think this one is very underrated. It gets a lot of flack because we get all of the gay subtext that, whether or not it works, it's just so interesting on its own right that, like, I feel bad for Mark Patton because he was gay in real life, and they just kind of, I guess the writers, like, pushed him, like, doing these weird things in the movie and this weird gay subtext. And but still, despite that, I really do love this movie. I love these characters. I think Lisa is a great final girl. I think Jesse is a great final girl, I guess you could say. He's great. Really like him. I like the fact that, again, more weird gay subtext, but Freddy is gonna come out of him into the real world. But I really liked his struggle, and I really liked Lisa as this really great final girl. Like, that scene where Freddy comes out into the real world, it really is truly scary. Whenever Freddy's chasing Lisa around the house and the doors are locked and, like, she stabs him and, he can't, like nothing happens. Like, Freddy can't get injured. And, like, it's a really scary moment. And then him going out into the pool and slashing all the kids is one of the best nightmare scenes I think out of all the films. I really love that scene. The gore is really good. Freddy in the dark for the most part is great, even though he's shown at the end of the movie, like at the pool scene. It still works very well. And this one has a lot of weird moments to it, but honestly it gives it a memorable charm where like I just remember this one a lot because it's just so odd and outrageous that it is entertaining. It's entertaining. It's got great kills, great final characters, great acting. I really like all these characters and the kills, and again, and visually it's great too. So really great, really great nightmare movie, and that's why it is my number 21. And then that is it for my part 3. Stay tuned for parts 2 and 1. And I am excited to talk about and keep going with how I'm gonna rank these movies, because there's a lot that people are gonna be like, you ranked this so high, you ranked this so low. But I mean, it's my opinion, so that's how it's gonna work. That's how it's gonna work for me. But yeah, I really did enjoy doing this part 3. So stay tuned for the next 2 parts. They should be up this coming week. And thank you guys so much for watching.